Suspended jail sentences in housing allowance fraud case. Carrie Lam tries to appease landfill opponents. And Philippine envoy apologizes to family of slain Taiwan fishermen.
Hello and a very good evening. Former Secretary for Development Mak Chai-kwong and former Assistant Director of the Highways Department Jung King-man were both given suspended 8-month prison sentence for defrauding the government of housing allowances. They're now considering whether to appeal. Jar De Silva has our top story tonight.
It was more than a year ago and only 12 days into the Leung Chun-ying administration when Mak Tai-kwong was forced to resign as Secretary for Development. A conspiracy to defraud case was brought against Mak and Tsang. They were accused of entering into a bogus cross-leasing deal with each other in the 1980s, while they actually owned or had an interest in the flats they claimed they were renting. The pair was convicted in June at the district court for defrauding the government of $700,000 in housing allowances. Today, after receiving an 8-month prison term, suspended for 2 years, Mak walked out of the courthouse a free man. Visibly relieved, he thanked all those who wrote mitigation letters to the judge and extended an apology to his co-defendant, Tsang King-man.
I'm blessed in life with my faith, with my family, and with my friends, and I would long remember their support. I'm very sorry for involving Mr. Zhang in this particular case, in particular his family, his Mrs. Zhang, and his 2 sons. And I think if I haven't taken up this post last year, this whole thing would not appear.
In their final submissions, the 2 defendants' legal teams underlined their clients' backgrounds and good reputations. Senior counsel Eric Kwok, representing Mak, referred to numerous mitigation letters submitted by senior government officials, including Financial Secretary John Tsang, as well as University of Hong Kong professors and former colleagues. Moreover, the defense teams of both Mak and Tsang also cited previous fraud cases involving the now defunct private tenancy allowance scheme for civil servants, or PTA, that culminated in suspended and community service sentences. In handing down suspended sentences for the 2 defendants, Judge Johnny Chan said he had taken into account structural deficiencies in the PTA scheme. The almost $2 million paid back by the defendants for the housing allowances received plus interest, their good character and their outstanding contributions to society.
Despite the success of the defendant's plea for a suspended sentence, that does not erase the fact that Mak Tai-kwong, who was a senior minister in the Leung Chun-ying administration, is the highest-ranking government official to be convicted of a criminal offence since the handover. Jar De Silva, TVB News.
And just a quick correction there, the pictures in those graphics earlier were in fact Mak Tai-kwong and Chang King-man themselves. Now, moving on, noisy protests greeted Chief Secretary for Administration Carrie Lam and Environment Minister Wong Kam Sing as they listened to views about the controversial proposal to expand the Tuen Mun landfill. Residents in the area say they are firmly against the potential plan and talked about the impact the landfill is having on their lives. Rani Samtani reports.
Hapak Nai villagers made their opposition to the landfill expansion loud and clear as the Chief Secretary and Environment Secretary visited the area to listen to people's views.
I need a normal life like other people, like a Hong Kong resident.
Chang later became so emotional that he had to excuse himself. Wong Kam Sing and Carrie Lam met with community representatives in the village hall today to discuss the controversial expansion plans and to ease their concerns. But afterwards, the village reps told residents they tried their best to convey everyone's opposition to the project. Residents' biggest worry is the smell, which they say is especially bad during the summer. Now, this village here is about a 20-minute walk from the dump site. I can say the odor is distinctly strong and definitely a legitimate concern for people who live here. The two ministers also visited Lung Ku Tan in Tuen Mun, where residents complained that the dump trucks driving through all day is a severe nuisance. Afterwards, Lam denied that it was all for show, saying they were there to fulfill an earlier pledge.
To address the anxiety caused by the expansion of the landfill or the current operation of the landfill. Okay. Secondly, is to see whether there are district aspirations or certain district improvement measures that they want the government to do, so as to sort of offset the need for them to shoulder a large part of the responsibility of the entire Hong Kong population in dealing with the waste that we all generate.
The funding sought for the Tuen Mun landfill at the Legislative Council last month was just for a feasibility study on its expansion. But it still had to be shelved along with funding to expand other landfills after widespread opposition from lawmakers, district councillors and residents. Rani Samtani, TVB News.
And damage control continued today for the authorities after a public rally in support of police officers descended into pushing and shoving in Mong Kok last Sunday. Should police officers speak up at a public rally if they're about to retire? A simple but controversial speech at a rally supporting his colleagues has shot Gregory Lau, a police superintendent on pre-retirement leave, into the hot seat. The police issued a statement this morning saying that officers have to avoid taking part in political activities or any event that may affect or give the public the impression that it will affect them in impartially carrying out their duties. But it said when officers are on pre-retirement leave, they no longer have the authority to discharge constabulary duties. And it said, according to the police general orders, the rally on Sunday, organised by the Federation of Hong Kong Parents Association and Hong Kong Action, was not a political activity. The statement also said the police force respects the public's right to express their views, but hopes that the public will respect police officers when they're trying to do their job. The issue has fast become highly politicised, with representatives of 4 police unions meeting with senior management of the force this morning to further discuss the issue. The representatives said the management side agreed with them that Gregory Lau had done no wrong. And Chief Secretary for Administration Carrie Lam also waded in. She said she had full faith in Hong Kong's frontline officers that they will maintain law and order in an impartial manner. She took a moment to declare a potential conflict of interest, saying her niece is a police officer, but that this has made her really feel the mounting pressure on officers in recent years. Ricky Chu of the Independent Police Complaints Council said whether or not Lau has in fact violated police regulations depends on the actions he took on the whole, not just on whether he took part in the rally. But Chu said so far there has not been enough evidence to make a case against Lau.
Some regional news now, and the Philippine government has formally apologised to the family of a Taiwanese fisherman killed by the Philippine Coast Guard in May. Taipei now plans to lift sanctions imposed against Manila. James Wong has more.
An envoy of Philippine President Benigno Aquino is in Taiwan trying to resolve the dispute over the shooting death of fisherman Hung Shi-ching. Amedio Perez arrived in Pingtung this afternoon to formally apologize to Hung's family. The envoy presented the family with a letter of apology signed by Aquino.
On behalf of our president and our people, I would like to present this letter of condolence.
Hung's family accepted the apology. Regarding compensation, Taiwanese media reported earlier the Philippines has offered more than 10 million Taiwan dollars, or more than 2.5 million Hong Kong dollars, to the family. The olive branch came after Philippine investigators yesterday recommended homicide charges against 8 Philippine Coast Guard personnel in connection with the deadly shooting. The Philippine probe rejected an earlier claim by the Coast Guard that they fired at the Taiwanese fishing boat in self-defense. Stop! And according to Taiwanese investigators, the Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, had been unhappy that an order to conduct an inspection on board the Taiwanese vessel was rejected, and they chased the fishing boat for 75 minutes. They fired 108 bullets, 45 of which hit the boat.
The collective act of these 8 PCG personnel of shooting directly at the fishing boat gives rise to conspiracy. All 8 personnel, therefore, can be held liable for the death of the Taiwanese fisherman.
The shooting occurred in waters where the exclusive economic zones of Taiwan and the Philippines overlap. Taiwanese officials welcomed the findings by Philippine investigators. President Ma Ying-jeou's government also announced plans to lift 11 retaliatory measures imposed against Manila over the dispute. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
Well, the territorial dispute between China and Japan over the Jiayu Islands is heating up. Tokyo today protested to Beijing over the presence of Chinese ships in waters near the disputed islands, known as the Senkakus in Japan. The Japanese government says 4 Chinese vessels stayed in what Tokyo sees as its territorial waters for more than 24 hours before leaving at around noon today. Tokyo says that's the longest stay by Chinese ships there since Japan announced the nationalization of the 3 islands in the disputed chain last September. Previously, Chinese vessels that sailed into the disputed waters usually left after several hours. Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga said Tokyo had summoned an envoy from the Chinese embassy early today to lodge a strong protest.
Here in Hong Kong, activists who were planning to sail to the disputed Diaoyu Islands next week have been forced to delay their trip. This after the Marine Department claimed their vessel is not suitable for sailing. The activists are crying foul, claiming that the department is using delaying tactics to prevent them from setting off as planned. But authorities explain the seaworthiness certificate of Kai Feng No. 2 expired October last year. The boat's owner submitted an application for a ship survey last month. When the officials inspected the boat earlier this month, they found a total of 41 defects and requested the owner to fix them before the seaworthiness certificate can be issued. The department stressed it inspects vessels in a professional and conscientious manner.
Russia has criticized the decision by U.S. President Barack Obama to cancel an upcoming meeting with his counterpart Vladimir Putin. Moscow says the move is clearly a retaliation for its decision to grant temporary asylum to fugitive Edward Snowden, a situation it says is America's fault and not Russia's. When Russia decided to grant U.S. fugitive Edward Snowden temporary asylum last week, it was clear Washington would express its displeasure at Moscow. Sure enough, the White House announced last night that President Barack Obama would cancel an upcoming meeting with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. While U.S. and Russian foreign and defense ministers will sit down in Washington this week, Obama won't be going to Moscow next month.
The decision to pull the plug on the Moscow trip, I think, represents as much frustration with the failure to frame an agenda with the Russians as the immediate fallout from the Snowden case.
The Kremlin said it was disappointed and blamed the situation on Washington's inability to develop relations with Moscow on an equal basis. The U.S. State Department made no mention of Snowden as it tried to explain Obama's decision.
Major issues were not teed up to make significant progress on the level of a president-to-president summit. And that wasn't a constructive step to take at this point. But there certainly is a recognition that it's important to maintain regular contact, dialogue with Russia on the issues where we agree and the issues where we disagree.
Still, there seems to be more that the two sides disagree about than agree on these days. Apart from Snowden, Washington and Moscow have been at odds over the Syrian civil war, Russia's domestic crackdown on civil rights, a U.S. missile defense plan for Europe, trade, global security, human rights, and even adoptions of Russian children by Americans.
And still to come in the news. A new group opposing the Occupy Central movement. Yuen Long residents protest against a land donation plan. And Disneyland employees want extra pay for working on public holidays.
Welcome back. Some flights have started resuming at Nairobi's main international airport after a fire gutted its international terminal building. Authorities say the airport should be fully operational by midnight local time. International flights in and out of Kenya's capital have been forced to use the domestic terminal. Flights to Kenya were diverted to other countries or the port city of Mombasa while firefighters tried to contain the blaze. It took firefighters hours to bring the fire under control, which started in the International Arrivals Hall. The cause of the blaze has yet to be determined. Some more local news now, and a new group that opposes the Occupy Central movement made its voices heard today. The Silent Majority for Hong Kong, which is made up of a group of academics and professionals, insists the movement would damage the city. Stephanie Choi reports.
The wife beaters always tell their wives how much they loved her, and then at home they beat them. So the question really is, do you believe what people say or do you believe what people do?
Chow today advised the people of Hong Kong to watch the deeds of Occupy Central organizers and welcomed the possibility of a debate for the public to hear arguments for and against the movement. It is the aim of the Silent Majority for Hong Kong to minimize the impact of Occupy Central on the city, or even to stop the movement. Another member of the group, Ho Lok Sang of Lingnan University, says Occupy Central would set a bad example for younger generations and encourage them to believe that breaking the law in the name of justice is somewhat excusable. They also say the movement aimed at forcing the hand of the government to push ahead with universal suffrage would leave Hong Kong in chaos and its business sector in jeopardy. And Chow took aim at Benny Tai, a key Occupy Central organizer.
What he basically says is that, Occupy Central is a weapon of mass destruction. But who is he destructing? Who is he killing? Average Hong Kong people, 7 million people, are going to be the victims of this weapon of mass destruction.
The organizers of this movement insist that they have no political affiliations and welcome supporters from all walks of life to work towards what they firmly believe Occupy Central will fail to achieve: peace.
The Silent Majority for Hong Kong hopes to garner the support of 100,000 people. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
About 24 angry demonstrators marched from the Central Post Office to the International Finance Centre to protest against a land donation plan by Henderson Land chairman Lee Shao-ki. 6 concern groups and villagers of Ma Tin Pok in Yuen Long protested against the property tycoon's offer to donate a plot of land there for building affordable homes for young people. They say the plan will see more than 500 residents of the area evicted from their homes. As many of those people are farmers, they express concern for their future livelihood. They urge the government to take into consideration the plan's impact on the villagers before accepting the proposal.
A taxi driver died after his vehicle collided head-on with a truck in the Cross Harbour Tunnel at around 4 o'clock this morning. The tunnel was in a one-tube, two-way operation mode at the time. The taxi was on its way to Hong Kong Island when it smashed into a truck that was going in the opposite direction. The 32-year-old cabbie was trapped in his vehicle after the collision. It took rescuers more than an hour to free him. He was rushed to Queen Elizabeth Hospital but was pronounced dead upon his arrival. The 41-year-old truck driver was also injured and taken to hospital. Police are still investigating the cause of the collision. The Director of Crime and Security of the Police Force, Stephen Low, has been named the next Deputy Commissioner of Police. Low, who is 51, joined the force in 1984 and worked his way up to Senior Assistant Commissioner in 2011. Next Tuesday, he will take up the post of Deputy Commissioner in charge of operations, replacing Tan Kam Moon, who will go into retirement. A group of Hong Kong Disneyland employees has started a signature campaign to fight for better working conditions. Among their demands, extra pay for working on public holidays. Evelina Leung tells us more.
Disgruntled members of the Hong Kong Disney Cast Members Union set up a booth outside the theme park today to gather signatures for the campaign. The union, which has about 500 members, conducted a survey in the past week. It said of the 100 members who've responded so far, 90% of them are unhappy they haven't been properly compensated for working during the Lunar New Year holiday. Mr. Tang, a Disneyland employee, said Ocean Park workers received double pay for working during Lunar New Year, and they're demanding the same. He said they're just fighting for what they deserve. The union's chairwoman, Ellen Jan, said the number of visitors at Disneyland has increased in the past 2 years, and she hopes the employees could benefit as a result. Her group plans to collect 1,500 signatures and submit them to management. Hong Kong Disneyland said it's considering the union's demands for double pay. Evelyn Aline, TVB News.
All right, Tony, what's in sports today?
Well, we've got some football to start off with, and an exciting match between two heavyweights of European soccer.
And that's our news for tonight.
Good night.
Hello everyone, it was mainly fine apart from isolated showers today. Now at 5 p.m, the ridge of high pressure over southeastern China was bringing generally fine weather to the region. Today's temperatures range from 26.7 to 32.7 degrees, and the current temperature is at 29.9 degrees Celsius. 1.3 millimeters of rain has been recorded since midnight, and the very hot weather warning is now in force. So Freddy, how's the weather tomorrow?
Oh.
Fine, but there will still be isolated showers at first. Temperatures will range from 27 to 33 degrees. Tomorrow's API is forecast at 5 to 75, and the pollution level range from low to high. The maximum UV index forecast for tomorrow will be about 12. Now, here's the latest global weather update. Sunny in Shanghai and Taipei. Sunny in Guangzhou and Macau. Sunny in Beijing, sunny intervals in Tokyo. Rain in Ho Chi Minh City and Manila. Showers in Kuala Lumpur, rain in Jakarta. Thunderstorms in New Delhi, rain in Karachi. Sunny in Cairo, showers in Nairobi. Sunny in Brisbane, sunny intervals in Sydney. Cloudy in Toronto, showers in New York. Sunny in Vancouver, cloudy in San Francisco. Sunny intervals in London and Amsterdam, showers in Paris and Zurich. And that's the weather. Have a great evening.